Hello, welcome back to my channel. So I don't know if you've seen the last video, but I've torn the motor down, and so it's just down on the block right now. Um, my heads are right over there, and they got back from the machine shop. Um, After I looked back on the videos, uh, because I have gotten a little bit frustrated with this vehicle just based on how it was built. It's not the vehicle's fault, it's just the previous builder was not knowledgeable enough, I feel. So then I've been comparing the car to my race car and my Japanese race car that you see here, and then some of my other cars that I have. But I probably should not be doing that, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that that's kind of where I'm going wrong. Um, Originally, I got this car just to be a cruiser. I knew it was not going to be a performance car, so I don't know why I kind of been comparing it so much to fully built race cars. So, kind of done with that. But with that being said, let me explain some of the issues that the heads have and why I'm going to be going the direction that I'm going, which is questionable to some people. But let me take you back over to the heads.
I had this part of the head resurfaced, no issues there. That's all good to go. However, when it came to this part, there were some complications there, and it was going to require the machinist to weld and fill in and then take some off. And let me show you the intake manifold. I got both sides on the intake manifold resurfaced, and so it still shows just a tiny bit, but that's not deep anymore. So yeah, let's talk about this.
I have several options I can go with here. The first one is probably not the one that I would recommend if you're daily driving a vehicle. Again, the bottom of the heads is fine. Like, we got that worked out. I didn't want to spend any more on those heads and on the intake manifold. They're not top of the line intake manifolds or heads, right? Having the machinist weld that and then resurface them is not an option. Just because at that point I'm getting into really close into just, I might as well just get brand new heads and a brand new intake manifold, right? So there's another option, and that is to braze them. So take a brazing rod, fill in the areas, and then just by myself I block sand them. And then that's kind of that option will last you a while. I haven't done it personally on any of my cars, but I've seen individuals do it, and their vehicles are still running to today. And they've actually done it on the bottom end of the like, where the engine's firing. So on the bottom end of the heads, and they've had no issues. So then the other one is the least favorable one. However, this car is not going to be a daily driver, and that is just to fill it up with silicone. Actually, I take that back. There's one more before that. JB Weld. I've had a car. I was racing one time, and the thermostat housing cracked. I filled it up with with JB Weld, and it was able to do the sessions, and I was fine. I even drove the car home. So that is a questionable option, like, but it's better than nothing. And then the least one, the one that I'm gonna go with, but just again, it's not gonna be a daily driver. I'm gonna take it out maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 times a year. It's just to silicone it. It'll be, I don't know yet. One of my main race cars has the timing cover. The entire timing cover, there's no gasket there. It's just all filled out with silicone. So I made a silicone gasket basically, and then that's what the gasket is, just silicone. It has not leaked. So in previous cars that I've done that to, they've leaked after like 5 or 6 years. So if you do it right, it'll work. And so I'm not the most concerned anymore with the pitting there. It was reduced to a point where it's just very minimal. However, if I was to just put the gasket, it's not going to work. If I was to just put the gasket and not ground it, also is not going to work. Electrolysis is going to start taking effect, and it's going to go back to the same situation it was in now. The individuals couldn't figure out why it was leaking, more than likely, because they kept using different silicones on the gaskets and so on and so forth. Like all the gaskets had a ridiculous amount of silicone, so they couldn't figure out why the aluminum was pitting and therefore leaking. Um, in the condition it's in now, and how they've been shaved and the work that's been done to them now, if I ground them properly and I use the silicone gaskets on the intake part, again, not the bottom end part, the bottom end part is fine, but on the intake part, it should be fine. Enough of that. Let's get started. Now you know why I've come to the conclusion of why I'm going to be doing this to these particular heads. And so let's assemble this car back and then get it in running order.
Before I do any of that, I have to still wipe off this. I've put grease around the edges of the cylinders. That way, as I was wiping down the block, nothing got in there. And well, if anything did get in there, it got stuck on the grease. So now I just have to wipe it all off. And then once I do that, I've also removed all the antifreeze that was in here, pumped it out with a pump. And so everything's pretty much close to just getting the head set on, well, the gaskets and then the head sat on top of them. So these are the old bolts, and you can kind of see this white stuff. That's basically what I have to add. And I'm just gonna use these bolts for reference as to where they kind of applied it. And because the head bolts go through and tap down into the water jackets. And so if you don't put something on there, you'd run the risk of water coming up through the bolts. So ARP recommends 70 foot-pounds of torque, and then these are their bolts. Their washer has like a little divot or like a little groove there. That's the side that goes towards the head of the bolt. The flat part is what goes down, so that'll help with torque. I was a little confused on this, but I guess this is just to be spread on the washer and on the head. So as it's clamping down, it clamps down thoroughly. But as far as, I was just kind of measuring one of the ARP bolts against one of the ones that was on the head itself. And so it's going to sit around like that. So that means that I need to fill up to about here with, I keep forgetting, liquid Teflon. ARP recommends their thread sealer, but I'm just gonna use the liquid Teflon that I have. It's Permatex, so it's pretty good. By the way, there's a reason why I have the bolts like this. So if you notice, these ones right here are not the same length as these longer ones. And then obviously these ones are definitely not the same length as neither of those. So these two shorter ones, let me kind of show you where those go and then where the longer ones go. And then also the short ones. So the short ones go down here at the bottom. The longer ones go here, here, and here, and then up at the top. But those two like medium-sized ones, one goes here and the other one goes over in this corner back there. I don't know how well you can see that there. So it's very important that you keep them organized. Let me kind of show how I'm assembling these just in case anyone's curious about it. So I'm putting some of this on here. And trying not to get all over my hands, but too late, I guess. Then the washer, making sure the groove side is going towards the head. Then we're putting a little bit more here. Okay, then I'm taking some of this. And I probably don't even have it in the, there we go. And I'm just coating the threads with it, kind of like so. Now I'm not like globbing this on, I'm just making sure that the threads are covered. So kind of like that. And that one's good to be put in. The heads are on, so it's time to get the valves in. Still have them here on this box exactly how I pulled them out, so this shouldn't be too difficult. I'm unsure as to why I call them valves. I meant the rockers. This part's super simple, so just kind of pulling them out like that. So just gotta get all of them put in. I got busy with something else, and so I'm barely getting back to this. Right now I'm going to adjust the valves, and there's different ways and different methods of doing this. I have just gone the easiest route I could find. There is a very instructional video on YouTube. I'm going to see if I can't post it on here, but this individual's method is the way that I'm going about it. But again, just do your own research and you know, go with the method that you feel comfortable with. I trust this the explanations of this individual, and he seems extremely knowledgeable. This will be the first valve adjustment I've ever done in my entire life. So you know, obviously I have mechanical skills, and so hopefully I am not led astray. Okay, so I've got oil spread on top up here on the heads, and all of these are adjusted. I totally just forgot. The rocker arms are all adjusted. And right now I've got this tool. I'll show you kind of what it looks like after I get done running it. But this is going to be connected to a drill. This is going to spin the oil pump, and that's going to circulate the oil through the motor and basically priming the engine. All right, so this is what the tool looks like. I borrowed it from one of my friends, but I think they go online for like $20. I'm not sure. I probably should invest in one, but for right now I just used it. Something I did not mention is that you really should only be priming the engine when you're ready to start it. I just ran it now. I only ran it for like around a minute or 2 minutes just to get the oil to come up through the push rods. The reason I did it was just because I wanted to make sure that everything that I set up was right. Again, I've never done this before. And so, but yeah, you technically want to just do it when you're about to start the engine. So when I'm about to start the engine, I will be running this again. So let's continue with the engine. I think it's the intake manifold gasket next. All right, I've got the gasket set up in here. I've tried to use the least amount of silicone that I can. Right now I just have the valve covers on just to kind of make sure I don't get any dirt or anything on the rockers. But there's a little bit of silicone on the corners there, and then, you know, obviously behind the gasket I put some on there too because there's pitting there. But hopefully once I set the intake manifold up here on top, it should just all seal, and hopefully everything seals right. I'm going to use this for the I guess it would be a total of 8 bolts that go into the water gullies. I don't know. Anyway, this is it's supposed to be a thread locker. However, I just got brand new bolts because the other ones were just kind of too far gone in my opinion. They just were really rusted. So what I'm going to end up using instead is I'm just going to use the Permatex thread sealer that I used on the heads. So I've put these in, and I'm going to give it about an hour so I can let the silicone dry before I put these other bolts that go over here where the water passages are. Because if I put the thread sealer, I run the risk of when I need to tighten this in an hour from now, I run the risk of messing up the thread sealer that I will put on these bolts, or it will harden. And so it's just best that I wait until I'm ready to tighten it before I put the last remaining bolts on the outsides. Okay, so I've got all the bolts on here, and then I added this, you know, this bracket needs to go before the bolts. So, and this one needs to go down here before the bolts. So at this point, it's time to torque them down. I believe it's 25 to 30 foot-pounds. Since they are going into aluminum heads, I'm going to aim for 25 foot-pounds. All the bolts are on and torqued down, and the torque sequence goes, I think, like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Don't take my word for that. Don't take my word on that. I can't remember 100% if that is how it goes, but I'm pretty sure that's close. Anyhow, let's keep making progress. Gone ahead and installed the alternator. So right now I'm about to wire it up. So just this plug goes in here, and then the two cables here, and then I believe this green wire, which was I wasn't sure on the last video. I think that just goes on the sensor that's underneath here, right there. So after that, I think I will either move into the radiator or start figuring out the carburetor. Tie in the 4 bolts or nuts around the carburetor, and get the hoses, like the hose clamps and everything. But I do believe, I'm going to double check this, but I do believe I have all the hoses connected how they used to be. And then after that, I got to figure out the throttle cable. All right, so the little cables in down here, this is always a pain to like feed through here. This piece is also connected, my throttle cable. This little guide thing like broke. It was all stuck together as one. However, I believe it's just a guide for the cable itself, so I'm not really gonna mess with it or try to fix it or anything like that. However, everything seems to be all connected there. And then I don't know if I said I connected this already, but that's already taken care of. And so I'm going to move over to take care of this big hole I have here.
Sometimes nothing ever goes in as easy as it comes out, but I managed to get it in there.
All right, so I've made some progress. All this is all put together. I can't think of the word right now. Transmission, oil cooler's on, the radiator's on, that hose at the bottom is on. I just need to get the hose on the top right here on, but which goes into the thermostat housing. However, that might be something that's gonna take me a little bit, because I wanna make sure that I have all the clearance I need for the fan that needs to go right here. I had this cable break, which is the one to the fan. The fan's all mounted and everything like that, but so I had to splice it here at the bottom, and then it also broke right here when I was uninstalling it the first time. So I've gone ahead and spliced it and everything like that, and just a matter of grounding it, and that should be good to go. Okay, so main hose is connected, and then I've also connected the heater hoses that come out of the firewall back here. And so I'm going to move over to the ground. So I'm going to use this bolt right here for the ground for the intake manifold. And then I'm going to use one of these holes down here on both sides of the heads for to ground the heads. I've got this one grounded down. It goes from there down into the chassis down here. And then the intake manifold runs from this bolt underneath the alternator through this bracket here, comes down and grounds right there. This head comes down and then grounds right over here. So, whoa, that didn't used to move before.
We're going to call this video good here. On the next one, I'll get the distributor in and timing and everything like that. The reason being is that on the next one, I also have to do the breaking in of the differential because it is new. And then I found a small leak off the dipstick tube that goes down into the transmission. So I think I'm just gonna fix all that, do the timing, start it, because I do need to get it all primed. I need to get the engine primed and everything as well. So that's probably something that I'll do when I'm getting ready to start the car. And that's not something that I'm going to do today. So I won't be putting the fenders on either until, it's broken in, the differential's broken in, and, everything's running fine, and so on and so forth, just in case I have to tear anything down again. So for now, thanks for watching. We will just catch you guys on the next one.